All right. It's good to see you all. Yes, let's clap it up. Welcome. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brian Sparks, and I want to welcome you to the AI Innovation and Insights for Startups. We are here because of the founders. We're here because the founders are what creating our economic development. They're coming up with innovative ideas. They're working hard, and they're just doing great things. And so we're going to get into that topic about AI tonight. But let me just give you a little overview before we get going here tonight. We have a few speakers who are going to be stepping up in a minute. We're going to get a welcome from Plug and Play, and then we're going to have a word from Ken Morris of Quartify. And then let me tell you what's going to happen. We are going to record Silicon Valley Impact for 92.9 FM, and we're going to have 4 amazing speakers give us that insight and innovation and where AI is going. So this will be recorded for radio. You're going to be a part of it. There's going to be about a 40-minute interview, and then we're going to have Q&A, and it will be all interviewed. Okay, it'll be all recorded. Yeah, it's going to be good. This is just kind of, again, a warm-up. I'm also going to bring up for a minute, well, not now, one of my co-hosts, Marianne Becker, but we'll bring that up in a minute. But for now, I want to introduce to you the hosts of tonight. Give a little intro.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much for all of you attending here. My name is Ruzbe Borhani, and I'm running semiconductor practice for Plug and Play. Whenever I hear AI, I love to jump on it and make sure that to let everyone know that what we are doing, at least on the semiconductor end, because it sits on top of everything like AI related. And everything AI related, of course, is powered by semiconductor, and I think our lights are too bright. That's a point maybe for our team back there. But on behalf of our CEO, Saeed Amidi, whole leadership team, and of course our CIO who is back there, I would like to welcome you all to our building, to like Plug and Play Tech Center. For those of you who don't know what Plug and Play is, Plug and Play considered to be the largest innovation platform in the world, where we have 3 main business pillars. We have venture capital, that we are the most active VC in the world by having 200 plus investments per year, almost 1 investment per business day. And we have acceleration programs that we are running, more than like 60 teamed accelerator program that we are having them across all of our locations globally. And we are doing corporate innovation for our corporate partners, for our government entities, and all the universities and so on, that they come to us, they tell us what are the tech challenges and tech needs, and then we source and we find and scout the right startups and introduce to them in the form of solution, with this hope of going for POC, piloting, and hopefully full-scale implementation. Anything that we do on the like acceleration program side, anything that we do with the startups, of course, is totally equity-free. We don't charge our startups nothing, and at the same time, we have this pleasure of investing in some of them, that we already have more than 2,000 active portfolio companies. And recently, we realized that all these business models works very well, not just on the private sector, but also on the public sector. So we have so many government entities that they've been involved recently with us to making sure that they can be part of making innovation happen in their region. Like some examples can be, for example, like Arizona Commerce Authority, ACA, Miss Sandra Watson, who is one of our biggest champions. We recently opened an office in 2 offices, I should say, in Florida with the government of Florida, and we are doing all of these things globally. That already expanded our global footprint to more than 62 locations. And for the sake of this meeting, if I want to tell you more also about AI-related stuff, we are doing so many AI Center of Excellence recently, and recently we launched our Center of Excellence of AI for San Jose region, with a partnership with PG&E and a couple of other stakeholders, including City of San Jose. So many things happening. We are so happy to be part of all of these things. We are welcoming all the startups, all the people in this whole ecosystem to partner with us, work with us. If you are startups, if you are founders, this is the right place for you to find your investments opportunities, to network with right people, right-minded, and potentially generate more business. And if you are corporations, if you are from government, if you are thinking about more job creation, if you are thinking about having better ROI and so on, we are also here to help. And with that, I'm gonna give it back to Brian. Thank you.
All right. All right, let me get that microphone. All right, we have one more quick intro, Ken, will you please come on up? Ken is with Cordify. He is one of our sponsors for tonight.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? All right. Okay, I'm Ken, founder CEO of Cordify. We do software development for startups. Part of our services include ideation to MVP. We have a fractional CTO service, and we have quick scaling up of startups if they want to go offshore through a special program called Build, Operate, Transfer. So if you want to learn more about us, we have a corner table outside. Come and talk to us.
All right, okay. Places, everybody. All right, I want to first bring up our panel. Panel, will you come on up? Give them a warm welcome. Positions, everybody. Brian, where are you at? Okay, I see you, buddy. Marianne, this is for you for now. Go on up, everybody. All right, Marianne, come up here and join me. Marianne Becker, everybody, one of my co-hosts.
Hi, everyone.
All right. All right, Brian, let's hit record.
Yeah, we're done.
We're record.
Everybody, this is for radio, so when we do the introduction, I want you guys to go bananas like it's the most fun, amazing thing you've ever seen.
Are you ready?
All right, let's do it. Play the theme music, Brian. Let's do it.
Go ahead, Christelle. Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now, give a big round of applause for your host, Brian Sparks!
Yes, Brian. And this time, it's not just my mom in the audience. We are here live at Plug and Play, and I'm here with Marianne Becker. Marianne, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
And
Thank
let's
you
hear it
for
for
being
Marianne
here.
Becker. All right, go ahead. Marianne, so Marianne's my co-host for this week. Marianne is usually just on the third or fourth
Yeah,
Thursday.
it was our fourth show.
Yeah, dedicated to women in leadership.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this time we had a room of 3 amazing women, and the total asset under management was over $500 million. So we had very powerful women in the room.
Yeah. And Marianne's doing an amazing job getting the word out about women getting into investing, women getting into business, and you have a big announcement.
I have a big announcement. So I always believe that in order to achieve true diversity within tech, we need more women funding women. So I'm really proud to announce that I joined a venture fund called Progressive Ventures, and I'm really excited about it.
And you didn't join, yes. Your role is what?
I'm going to be a general partner at the firm. So I'm really excited. I have 2 other amazing general partners. The managing partner is this woman who's a tech executive. So we're very excited to take that on and find the next unicorn.
Nice. Well, thank you, Marianne. You do a wonderful job. I really appreciate having you on the show. You're representing the women demographic in a huge way, so thank you so much. We'll hear more from Marianne in the Q&A session, but let's give a warm, again, applause for Marianne.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. So let's now meet the stars of the show. I want to welcome all my guests. I'll give you this, Bill. Sure. So I have kind of 2 rules when I record my show, and we've all talked, and the agreement is, number 1, we're going to have fun. Right? We're going to have fun, and we're going to be a little messy because we have over 150 AI. Yeah. Pour it on me. We have over 150 AI companies, founders here tonight, and they all know that the pathway to success is going to be messy. So we'll be a little messy, we'll have a little fun, but more importantly, we're going to get you the insight and the innovation that is to come with AI. But before we go any further, I want my guests to give an introduction. Some of them don't need an introduction, but nonetheless, I want to give them all a second to introduce themselves for our audience at home and our audience here. So Bill, I'll start with you and we'll work on down the line.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you to Plug and Play. Looking forward to having this conversation this evening. My name is Bill Reichert, and I am a general partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures. I'm also the chief evangelist for Startup World Cup, which is now the largest and richest startup competition on the planet. We're having our Silicon Valley Regional August 1st at the Computer History Museum. You're all invited.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Nice.
So yes, put it in your calendar. Look it up, startupworldcup.io. In any case, Pegasus is a global venture capital firm. We have over $2 billion of assets under management. And the unique thing about Pegasus is we've built up a network of limited partners who are multinational corporations that we bring to the table with all of our investments in early stage companies. So we have our corporate partners who like to do POCs and or collaborate with or joint development agreements or licensing with our portfolio companies. So we bring that added advantage in addition to the capital that we bring to the table. So I've been an entrepreneur here in Silicon Valley for many years and now an investor, venture capitalist here in Silicon Valley for many years, and I look forward to this conversation.
And one of my Silicon Valley heroes, Bill. Thank you for being here, buddy. All right, Jenny, go ahead.
Well, that was a high bar for an introduction to follow. I wouldn't call myself successful in any ways, but I will tell you about my messy journey. My name is Jenny Wu, and I'm a solutions architect at AWS Startups. I focus on cybersecurity ISVs, and what ISVs stand for is independent software vendors, meaning that you build software for businesses. I started my career actually as an auditor in the finance industry. I was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers for a little bit, but decided that that was too boring for me and switched into tech. And my first job in tech was actually at a startup. I was paid very little because it was my first job out of college. But in very recent years, that startup became a unicorn for valuation. I unfortunately didn't get enough equity to make myself rich, and that's why I'm still working. But it did give me enough to pay off my car. And
Tesla?
It was actually a Honda Civic.
Sorry.
Well, I switched into corporate, and I started my software engineering career at AWS. I was at AWS building their billing platform, and then I switched into the AWS startups role because I think working with startups is really exciting. Right? You guys build so fast, really innovating, changing the world for the better. I'm excited to be on this panel and talk a little bit more with you about my experience and what I think where AI is going as an industry.
All right, Mona, give us a little intro. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I am Mona Salvi and I am the Senior Director of Product at HubSpot. I lead product management for security and fraud function for all HubSpot platform, products, infrastructure. Additionally, I also lead risk management and security sales enablement function. Again, there is a broad HubSpot sales team, but as with all things security, fraud, risk, this being such a niche domain, we decided to have a center of excellence around all things security, fraud, risk within this organization. Prior to HubSpot, been with Intuit, leading global workforce security, trust and safety, content moderation, with, again, all things fraud for their flagship products, TurboTax and QuickBooks. And then prior to that, was heading the identity and authentication business unit for VeriSign, back when it was VeriSign, and again, with all things Silicon Valley, VeriSign got acquired by Symantec, now Broadcom, who knows what's next. So, been in the industry for about 20 years, 16 of which are in security and product management, and I'm super excited to be here to explore and talk further about AI and security.
All right, Mona, thank you. Venkat.
Hi, I'm Venkat. I'm the founder and CEO for DuploCloud. I'm actually a developer by background, spent like 9 years at Microsoft. I was an early engineer in Azure, then worked for a startup, then started working for Cisco, got bored. I wanted to go and find a job. Failed pretty much everywhere, Google, Facebook. I couldn't pass any of the coding interviews. So kind of decided to write a software, put myself in Upworks for $18 an hour DevOps engineer. It's kind of a bait and switch strategy. And then it kind of worked out. One customer led to another. And today here we are. We are a 120 people company, raised $50 million and so forth. But yeah, that's kind of my story.
Nice. Venkat, hold on to that because I'm gonna start with you because I love that story. One of the things that we do at Silicon Valley Impact is we not only talk to brilliant individuals, but we also from time to time bring on people who are unemployed. Because with the turnover all the time happening in Silicon Valley with tech, you have brilliant people who just lose their job. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard the story, not only from investors, but now CEOs, who started their idea when they went unemployed. So that is such a great story. And so when you hit rock bottom, I mean, that is really where the ideas and the innovations come, right? Where the pain is. And we may be talking about insight and innovation, but really innovation insight comes from following the pain. So Venkat, let's start with you. And I also want to thank you at DuploCloud, HubSpot, AWS for sponsoring this event, because if it wasn't for you three, this wouldn't be possible. And again, bringing together founders and informing you and giving you access is really the hallmark of, I think, what Silicon Valley is about. So I want to thank all three of you, as well as Bill, for what you've done in the industry. No, I'm serious. No, there are a lot of players who make Silicon Valley possible. And I think these four represent that. So I want to thank you all for doing that. So thank you very much for being here. So Venkat, the topic tonight is innovation and insight. And you talked about when that came to you. Where do we begin with this topic? Because we have a lot of brilliance to talk about, but really quick, from a high level, where do we begin with this?
Yeah, I mean, you mean just in the context of AI or in general innovation?
Just AI, innovation, insights. Yeah. There's even these fears of like, where's AI going to take us?
Right.
Yeah, where do we begin?
Yeah, I think in general, innovation really starts at like you wanting to do something. That's one. And second, I think the most important thing more than smartness, hard work is resilience, right? So do you have the ability to go fail repeatedly and then really pursue the idea, fight for ideas, and then just keep pushing, and then sort of go from there. And I think that's what makes an entrepreneur really successful. I think eventually you'll get there, but you just have to like keep pushing. And then I mean, you probably have seen Jensen from NVIDIA talk about like all the sufferings that's involved and whatnot. So that's like in general about innovation. Now, in terms of AI, I mean, I'll tell you, there are like a few things, right? So first is that I think I feel it, and probably all of you also feel it, is that it seems too much too soon, right? It's so fast, right? It almost feels like, year 2000.com, right? Where every website or every web portal would be like worth hundreds of millions of dollars and so on. But just like then, there was some reality to that. What was the reality then? The reality was internet, right? And then it's sort of like the hype made its way to SaaS, and then Salesforce and everybody else came in. There was real value. The core thing was that, I don't need to maintain infrastructure. I'll just go to subscribe to the service and then get stuff done. The equivalent of that on the AI side is really, I think, how do I say it? It's basically about labor optimization, right? I mean, on one hand, it's like there are like so many disciplines where there is tremendous amount of labor that you cannot like get stuff done in a short period of time. But on the other hand, there's also stuff that you just cannot achieve. And AI helps you sort of achieve all of that. Agentic workflows, RAG, applied to various different verticals, like agent for nurse, agent for an engineer, agent for an architect. Like those are the things that we are sort of like looking at right now. And then eventually it'll make its way to something very, very meaningful, which works in a certain scope. And then it'll definitely transform the world just like internet transformed the SaaS industry. Yeah,
so you can pass it to Mona, because Mona, I have a question for you. And I'm going to do my best to integrate the brilliance up here on the stage. I got all these questions, and I know I can't ask them all about. Mona, you and I were talking before the show on the phone. Your area of expertise, I believe, is fraud and risk. You were talking a lot about that. With what Venkat is saying, so much, so fast is happening. How do we address those fears, and where do you begin as someone with that particular interest in those topics begin the conversation?
Yeah. Challenging question, but a great question.
I know I said light lift, and I gave you that, right?
I would say, I mean, again, start somewhere, right? And identify your customer profile, identify the needs of your organization. But just to give a few examples about just real life examples from HubSpot, as most of you hopefully know what HubSpot does. It's a CRM marketing automation platform. We do marketing, sales, data, along with identifying how AI can speed up some of these behaviors, some of these use cases, personalized recommendations, email campaigns, reach your customers faster. How do we make sure that overall AI, as we are embracing them, is not making things challenging enough when it comes for our customers to adopt AI? So going back to how can we adopt it, how can we embrace it, what are some of the challenges and fears surrounding it, it all starts with applying those use cases internally to the organization, and then starting from there to make sure that there is not bias, there is data security, privacy, as we are considering designing these AI models, and making sure that the customer is the center of it all, data is in the center of it all, and we are taking all of that into account as we start application of these internally to the organization before launching it out.
I love that. So Jenny, similar question to you. A lot's happening really fast. There's a lot of different ways in supporting founders in terms of what they need to do to get traction, accelerate, keep up. How does AWS support entrepreneurs and founders at this point?
Okay, I would say that this question really is meaningful for me and something that I deeply care about. So AWS has actually been around for quite some time. 20 years ago, when we started offering our first services, our target customers were startups. And one of the reasons for that is because startups build so quickly, and you guys are pioneers in adopting technology and innovating. And that is still true to this day today. Now I'm gonna focus on some of the AWS startup programs that we have. We have a few incubators and accelerators for you to get started with your idea. You can apply to those. Those are available on aws.startups.aws. So feel free to apply to those accelerators and incubators on those websites. But we also have a lot of free resources available to get started for you, either from a technical perspective or even from building your startup. You may have known about the AWS Activate credits changing this year. It was recently announced in July, and so now instead of 100,000, you may get up to 200,000 in AWS credits to spend. I will talk a little bit more about what we're doing in the AI space, though, because that's really exciting. And so if we think about what AWS has done in terms of machine learning and AI over the past couple of years, we've always been in the business to democratize that. And with machine learning, we were the first to come to the market with an offering for you to run machine learning on GPUs without having to necessarily have the technology and have a PhD behind your back. And the same thing we're gonna do with Gen AI. And so on AWS, we have a variety of foundational models. And foundational models are those big, large, intelligent models that other companies, other startups have trained that you can leverage on top and build your technology on top of. And so we have a plethora of offerings on AWS Bedrock, and that's available for you to get started today. You only need an AWS account, and you can call it with an API. There's a playground for you to do testing, and I've played around with it. It's actually fairly interesting to use. There's a few model comparisons that you can start running with. And I would really say, if you haven't played in the AI space, right now is the time to really upskill, right? And we think about, is AI gonna take my job, right? What am I gonna do? Am I gonna lose my job because AI is available? And I would say definitely not. AI is a tool for us to become all more productive as a civilization. And so you leverage your existing knowledge as an entrepreneur or as a co-founder and have AI to help you accelerate that.
So you got a lot of tools available. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, absolutely. So again, all founders are looking for tools and resources, and it sounds like there's some available through AWS. That's not just a plug. We do need to be scrappy, and we do need to utilize what's at our fingertips, and I think AWS is an underutilized resource when it comes to that. So Bill, pivoting to you a little bit, talk a little bit from the investor's perspective.
Yeah. So
I'll let you just go anywhere with this. Just go ahead, take the mic and go with it.
No, I mean it's I love the the perspective that, oh my God, everything's happening so fast. Oh my God, it's crazy out there, et cetera, et cetera. Having been around for a while, okay, for a while. One of my stories is that I did my first AI investment in 1989. And I thought it was too late. So again, this whole AI thing is just keeps coming back to haunt us. And one of the things that's interesting about this wave is that as much every wave this whole anxiety thing pops up. Every wave. This one seems to be a little bit more intense, I guess, because of the anxiety that now AI is smart enough that it'll take jobs from smart people, not just from labor, right? But have LLMs taken jobs from anyone yet? Has generative AI taken jobs from anyone? Anybody? No. It's, by far
You
it's
may have
created
picked a
jobs.
hornet's nest at that point. I can hear some yes, yeah.
No. I mean, so it's, I think that's the wrong anxiety, around this whole thing. But from an investor point of view, the anxiety from the investor point of view is how to differentiate startups. Because now we're in this world where there's this herd rush to do something with generative AI, to use, you've got to, if you're a startup company, and this has been true with every wave, you've got to put that tag, into your company. Somehow you've got to have generative AI somewhere in your company. And, so as investors, we're trying to figure out how much of it is core and how much of it is window dressing, and how much is really essential to delivering a unique value proposition, and how much is just, well, I got to have some, voice activation in order to operate my app, la-di-da. But the challenge for investors right now is that it seems like with some of these tools, God bless the tools, but it seems like with some of these tools, any two university students can launch a application, enterprise application for doing almost anything over the weekend. And so when we look at startup companies, our challenge is, okay, what do you have that really is proprietary, that really gives you some unfair advantage? Because the nature of this generation of AI is that it's infrastructure for everyone. And so, everyone can tap into this very powerful AI. So you've got to figure out something that's going to give you an unfair advantage over and above and separate from the AI.
Yeah.
And so I got into trouble the last wave in 2014. I did an interview with an international media company where I said, AI is not an investable proposition. And it was like shocking. And my partners who said, Bill, why would you say that? Nobody will come to us if they're in AI. No, AI is not an investable proposition. Generative AI is not an investable proposition, except maybe if you're Sam Altman. But for most of us here, AI is not what makes your proposition investable, right? It's to the extent that you can create something unique and compelling that nobody else can create, that's what you got to figure out.
So a lot of the same principles still apply to a fundable startup. You have to have the team, the moat, you have to have a market and traction. And with AI evolving so quickly, I want to pivot to Venkat, back to you. Pass the mic on. Yeah, there you go. So real quick, what are some of the opportunities as well as the barriers in integrating AI, especially for DevOps at this point? From your perspective, what are those two avenues that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, I think DevOps is actually a very, very broad space, right? And a lot of security comes under DevOps as well. So in that sense, I think there are tons of avenues where people are applying AI. And I would basically first start by saying that you can broadly categorize them into something which is more around, let's say, monitoring and sort of finding out what's going on, and maybe at that point of time, either passing it over to the human being to take over. That's sort of one category. And the second category is that can the AI actually be your co-pilot, right? Can the AI really be your DevOps engineer and sort of just go and do everything? I think the first part is where people have seen a lot of success right now, because not because it's only easy, it's also safe, right? You basically, an example could be, okay, let's basically throw all the security events to AI and then see if it can actually make sense out of it, which otherwise would require quite a bit of labor force to actually do that, and we sort of don't get through that, right? So in that sense, that's one way of doing it. Similarly, SRE, go and find out what's going on and really get to the resolution so that people can go and fix it. So that, I think, is an immediate thing which is happening, and a lot of people are having some substantial success. We ourselves are able to do that and so forth. But I think where the industry potentially is going is to actually be able to build a copilot, which in technical terms could be like agentic workflows, which are like state machine. Okay, you find this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, right? So can you actually simulate, maybe if not 100% of DevOps engineer, can you simulate 70%? Can you simulate 80%, 90%? And DevOps as such is like a very, very difficult skill set as we speak today. It requires you to be a developer so that you can write code, security person, you understand security, you need to be well read in compliance, and of course you need to be good at operations. I mean, no university teaches all these 4 courses in one single discipline. But AI can sort of like come in and be that genuine co-pilot. But I think there'll be some success, but it's not there right now. But I think we're going towards that.
That's a good start. So Mona, I'm going to come to you next. We can talk about, well, how are we going to implement it in our businesses and what are we going to do with it? But let's go to the other side of it. Talk a little bit about implementation from a customer's perspective. How do we make sure we're still hitting the mark and not disrupting our ideal, target customer, our ideal market? What are some stories that HubSpot may have in making sure we're still serving our customers effectively?
Yeah. So between security and fraud, I'm going to take a fraud use case here. So let's think of one of HubSpot products as Commerce Hub. There is a tremendous applicability by the bad actors in how they're using AI to use stolen credit cards, compromised cards, stolen identities, and stand up fake accounts to start transacting, which then results in bad debt collections, chargeback fraud, friendly fraud, and then can cause damage and damage to HubSpot brand and reputation. In that realm of e-commerce fraud or HubSpot commerce fraud, in this entire journey of the customer life cycle, at every step along the way, AI could be misused by the bad actor. And we at HubSpot need to be 2 or a couple of steps ahead in making sure we are doing the right amount of prediction, detection, and alerting and prevention to make sure that these accounts are not stood up and they are not, or rather they are prevented, or we are detecting in the right time, based on anomalous risky behavior detection, and then we are taking down those accounts. So one such example where we are really helping the business strong with our risk as an enabler of growth mindset is where we are going ahead and allowing commerce to product to open the doors wide enough to allow these actors to stand up the accounts. But as we see something anomalous, as we go ahead and see something risky, we just go ahead and start layering in step-up authentication, or we start layering in additional progressive documentation that we can ask them so that we can verify the identities before allowing them to start transacting on the commerce application. So this is just one use case, and then there are many other such applicability of security, fraud, AI use cases as it comes to, let's say, account lockouts, or let's say underwriting a merchant and determining the line size that they can transact, or it could be AI for phishing fraud, hate speech, racial discrimination, obscene profanity, and making sure those accounts are not using AI to stand up blogs that could spread wrong information, and making sure we are using AI at the same time for doing that content moderation and bringing those accounts down and keeping the world and the community a better place and a safe place to live. So those are just some of the use cases.
That's just the beginning, right? Yeah. Jenny, let's stay with the theme of integration, but look at it from the perspective of compliance. We have a lot of different perspectives to consider. A lot of these challenges, our founders are, pulling their hair out. Not that I have any to pull out, or I understand that. But talk a little bit about the challenges and the help that that AWS can have with compliance.
Okay, so I'm going to actually engage the audience a little bit because it seems like some of you are falling asleep.
What? What? How's that possible? The energy that is up here is preposterous.
So I'm going to ask, how many of you have thought about security and compliance in your product as you're building it on your roadmap? Okay, so I have about a third of the hands raised in the room. Okay, what are the other 2/3 of you guys doing?
They're here for the food.
Okay, I'm going to ask, how many of you actually want to eventually acquire an enterprise-level customer or a government-grade customer? I should see all the hands in this room raised. Okay, so this is kind of where I think AWS is going to be really helpful for all of you. If you're ever eventually thinking about getting an enterprise customer or a government customer, there are a lot of compliance regulations that you're going to meet. GDPR for one, HIPAA compliance, PCI, ISO compliance, and if you're looking for DoD contracts, FedRAMP, right? Okay, so those are all the frameworks that you have to navigate as a startup, and it's really difficult if you don't have a degree in law to understand what's going on and what those requirements might be. And so we at AWS, we have 54 compliance partners that are part of our global security compliance accelerator program, DuploCloud being one of those partners, to help you build your product and meet those compliance requirements as you're building the product so that you don't have to go back and tear down what you have already built and then restart. Right, and I think it is important to think about these things as you're building your startup, because you want to eventually get to a place where you're able to acquire those customers, and you want to come to the contract and negotiating table saying, hey, I've already achieved this kind of compliance. Let me show you what my product can do, instead of saying, oh, well, I didn't know this was a requirement. Let's go back and build that. And so I think with the compliance partners that we have at AWS, and I will plug DuploCloud because they're on the stage with me tonight, we would be able to help you build your startup in a compliant way so that you're better able and better positioned to get those contracts.
Nice. So Brian Bernasconi, how are we doing on time, buddy? I always got to ask this question because I'll go over time on the radio. How are we doing?
Yeah, you're getting to that point where you're maybe 40 minutes in.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So Bill, one last question, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give it to the audience. So audience, have your questions ready. And here's another thing. If you are a startup, please no pitching. Right? I don't want to hand you the mic and then next thing you know, we're looking at your slides and we're looking at your ideal target market. So just have a quick question, 15 seconds. Come on, man, it's my opportunity, my time to shine. Bill, really quick.
Yes.
When it comes to AI and these companies that are looking to deploy these new insights and innovations, what are you looking for in terms of the company being fundable when they're looking to deploy and integrate AI?
Yeah, well, I sort of answered last time, but I'll go a little longer and more specific in terms of...
It's an hour show.
Yeah,
so
okay. No. Okay, so for example, I mean, what I was saying before was that AI doesn't get you anywhere in terms of a VC's interest. It's table stakes. So the question is, what can you do with AI that you can build that nobody else can build, that enables a compelling value proposition that is going to be very hard for anybody else to penetrate? And so one of our most recent investments, a couple of weeks ago, we invested in a company that was using AI. It was an AI IoT play. And so they integrated AI with their sensor device to be able to measure in extraordinary, to derive extraordinary information about the tires in commercial vehicles. Yuck, right? But they had partnerships with some of the most important tire companies in the world. They had relationships in the trucking industry. They had a sensor device that was unsurpassed, and they had some AI. And so they had a combination of factors that it would be very, very difficult for anybody else to replicate. They didn't just have AI. And so that's kind of what I mean in terms of if you want to take advantage of AI to create something big and interesting that a venture guy will fund, then it's not the AI. It's the compelling value proposition that you can create that nobody else can create that is going to get a VC to say, wow, that's amazing. You can do that. I've never seen that before. The challenge we have is pretty much every pitch we hear, we've seen it before, right? And that's, you don't want to be that, 15th pitch, right? So try to come up with something that we've never seen before that generates extraordinary 10x value for your target customers.
Basic stuff. Okay, I love it. So now we're going to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. So if any of you have something that's top of mind, something you would like to hear a little bit more, it's now your opportunity to ask that question. Brian will come around with a microphone, so go ahead and raise your hand. I can see you. We've got Brian right over here.
Or if anybody violently disagrees with anything we've said.
I love controversy, so we won't shy away
Just
from
to pitch my company is.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Bill, tracking on to your answer, and so how do you, like, if you have an AI idea, how do you test? Like, what's the litmus test? And I know you said that, see if it could be replicated easily. But furthermore, like, let's say, okay, you think it's a good idea, but what would be a further test? Like revenue, customers, design partners, like how do you know?
Okay, everybody here, I assume you've learned design thinking. Has everybody here learned design thinking, which is a variation on lean launch? Okay. So, everybody here should know that if you've got a great idea, that doesn't get you anything. At a minimum at the beginning, what you need to do if you want to have a conversation with an investor is you deliver 4, 8, 10 prospective customers to that investor who are going to say, remind me your name again? Paul? Paul, okay. Paul has something we've never seen before. We desperately need it. As soon as he makes it, we will buy 10 of them. So we had this conversation yesterday about a company that made this claim that nobody else on the planet can do this. And we said, we don't believe it. And he said, talk to 4 of our customers, 3 of whom are global brand names. We talked to those 4 customers, and they said, yeah, these are the only guys we've ever come across that can do this. That's the difference. It doesn't matter if you haven't actually sold it, right? I mean, so yes, we like revenues and all that good stuff, right? That's even better. But when you're early stage and pre-revenue, you can still be compelling if you talk to customers and you get these customers to talk to your investors to say, we desperately need this. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Momentum. Okay, who's next up? And what's the name of your company? No.
It's called Code Conductor.
Co-conductor. Thank you very much. Nice. A little bit of plug. Got to give him something for being the first question. Go ahead.
I have no company to sell. But you mentioned that we could violently disagree. Of course, first of all, we disagree on violence. But having said that, you also work with very large corporations. So I don't know if you've seen the publication by JP Morgan Chase about their Gen AI and the amount of 10x, 20x value it has brought to them. I know you are disagreeing on Gen AI being, value creation, but certainly I think there are many use cases.
I didn't say Gen AI is not value creation.
Okay.
I said it's not killing jobs yet. Okay, and it's not necessarily the differentiator. So okay, but keep going. Sorry.
So okay, since you're talking about job being lost, Klarna laid off 170 people after they, rolled out their AI initiative. There is lots of examples where people are losing. If they might not be, laying off people, but they're definitely hiring less people going forward. So that's
a big difference. But
yes.
I mean, I have no doubt right now that all this Gen AI stuff has created so much work compared to yet replacing labor or talent at this point. I'm being a little extreme in suggesting that nobody will lose their job. Of course they will. Journalists lost their job because of social media. There's lots of disruption because of new technology. But net, we're going to have more high-end jobs because of generative AI rather than fewer.
All right, thank you. Jenny, go ahead. So
I was going to add on to that just
Jenny,
a
hold on
little
a second.
bit.
I want to direct traffic a little bit. Brian, we'll take one more question. Jenny's going to ask her, and then we'll roll out. Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, so just to address that same point on the Gen AI value and what it can create, I do think that within an organization, your data is going to be your differentiator. So if you have Gen AI and you don't have any data to work off of or any niche market that you're playing into, that is a really difficult pitch to an investor, to a customer, to anybody really. But if you do have data to back it up, you can see the power that Gen AI can really unleash for you to do the analytics, derive insights from your data, and help you be more productive as an organization or as an employee, right? Or if you're a startup founder. So that's the only thing I wanted to add on to that.
All right, Brian, go ahead. We got another question.
Hey guys, we are a fintech startup, and we talk to many financial corporations. One of them is JP Morgan Chase. We have bunch of data that we can use. We can bunch of data that we can train AI on. And when I say it, people are terrified because of the compliance, because of other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm talking about retirement and financial industry in specific, but I'm sure that you know a bunch of other cases where compliance is preventing this kind of stuff. So what can you say about it?
So a compliance question.
Okay, I will answer that question, and then I'll pass it off to other panelists. From a compliance perspective, you're in the financial industry. I know that there's one other startup in here in the healthcare industry, and there are a lot of regulations in these industries for the protection of us as consumers, right? And we want to make sure that we are using data and AI in a way that is safe and responsible for society, right? We don't want to be jumping the gun and getting to AI that passes the Turing test without knowing what the AI is actually processing through in the back, because you don't know what might happen in society if that were the case. And so I think a focus on how can I use AI while meeting those compliance requirements, those regulations, and build my product to solve a problem that this world desperately needs to be solved is important. And as you're thinking of how to build responsibly, how to build in a way that is safe and meets privacy requirements and those governance policies that you might feel like, oh, this is a pain and preventing me from building quickly, I would say let's get more innovative in that. Do you actually need those, identifying data that the policy is preventing you from using? Right, those are things to be thinking about, and I think it's a challenge, and when there is a challenge, that is a chance to innovate.
All right, well done. I think Brian and Marianne, we're at time right now, I think, and that's going to be a wrap. But I want to thank, we're at time. I want to thank Venkat, thank you so much for having us. Mona, I want to thank you so much. Jenny, thank you. Bill, please, when you're eating, pull these folks aside, pick their brain, get insight. These are the events where you're going to get access, where you're going to get knowledge. Venkat, correct me if I'm wrong, no one path to becoming a unicorn or becoming a sustainable company is the same. So you've got to put it together, and these are the individuals that can help you put it together. Venkat, give us one final word of insight on what these founders can do in order to become a great company.
Yeah, I think I would basically say, look, my journey towards entrepreneurship was slightly different. I started at Upwork's $18 an hour. 2 years into the journey, every VC rejected me because I didn't have those 5 customers who said, this is the most awesome thing that we have ever seen. Essentially what we ended up doing is that we bootstrapped ourselves. We had basically we had metrics, we basically learned, and then we finally built something. And finally, when we went to investors, they saw metrics and the kind of things that you talked about, and then we had customers and so forth. So I would basically say it's a journey. I think what people are looking for is validation, and there are many ways of getting those validation, but fundamentally I think it really comes down to your differentiator, which is what I think Bill is talking about. And one last thing I'll basically talk about, we talked a lot about jobs and stuff. So it's like this, AI is no different than computers, and computers were no different than the industrial revolution, right? Industrial revolution came, there were people who lost jobs, then computers came, people who lost jobs, or rather they upskilled themselves, and there is AI. But I'll tell you one thing that is changing is that it is changing the human capacity of how we basically use the least common denominator in this world, which is natural resources, right? So that has quadrupled, that's gone 100x and so on. That's where I think we are going at some point of time. We basically have to see, we have so much of technology, but what about the least common denominator, right? Oil, electricity, wind, water, and so forth. And that's where, I get inspired a lot by what Elon Musk talks about interplanetary species and whatnot. So I think that's where, approximately where I think about is that I think it's going to make us more and more powerful. We just have to figure out how to use that power. But humans will get upskilled, and then they'll find their way. We always have done it before.
Right. And finally, Mona, we got 2 more minutes. Give us some parting words, and then we're going to sign off.
I think aligned with most of the thoughts that we have shared here, which is finding that one unique common problem statement and figuring out your ideal customer profile, and then applying and pitching Gen AI on top of it to see how Gen AI can make that much faster. Just going back to the fintech question and adding on to that as well, which is think of all these compliance, security, privacy as verticals, and AI is that horizontal. So there is no one AI certification out there just yet that we have to say we have designed our code that meets this AI certification. But at a minimum, we have to be able to say that we have been responsible in the way that we have designed our AI best practices, applied those to meet various customer problem statements, and the way we differentiate ourselves is making sure that it's GDPR compliant, PCI compliant, is it meeting SOX requirements, is it allowing us to make sure that sensitive data can be safe, secure, and it's protected, and in some ways probably even allow customers to self-serve and protect their own data. So yeah, the differentiator again goes back to that unique customer cases and then making sure Gen AI is able to just speed it up much more faster.
All right, Mona, well, thank you. Jenny, thank you. Venkat, thank you. Bill, thank you. Let's give a hand to our audience. I want to thank Marianne Becker, my engineer, Brian Bernasconi, and for us here at Silicon Valley Impact, I want to thank you for being a part of the show. Brian, that's a wrap. Take us home. This is Silicon Valley Impact on 92.9 FM in Los Gatos and beyond. Give me my theme music, Brian. Hit that switch.
Coming. Give me 1 second.
For radio. All right.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that was coming, man.
I told you we'd be messy. I told you we'd be messy from the beginning. All right. Take us out of here, buddy. I love it. All right. Join us here every week from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on 92.9 FM, Pirate Cat Radio in Los Gatos. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here at Plug and Play. Enjoy the meal. Have a good night.